In a previous video, we went over how to use Django Social-Auth to do social authentications with social networking sites. Unfortunately, Django Social-Auth has been deprecated in favor of python-social-auth, which is a more universal application to use with other type of Python web frameworks. However, it still works perfectly fine with Django. So let's go ahead and go over how to do that. First thing we're going to do is install it with doing a pip install python-social-auth. And it's just going to go through its normal install process and install all of its dependencies. The great thing about python-social-auth at this point is it has a ton of social authentications available. I really recommend you check out the site to look at all of them that are available. So now that python-social-auth is installed, let's actually go about using it. First thing that we want to do is we want to go ahead and open up our settings file and go down to installed app. Much like every other third-party Django library, we need to put an app inside of our installed apps. In this case, we're going to do social because that's what the app is that we installed. We're going to do social.apps.django_app.default. This is a Django app inside of the Python Social-Auth project, specifically to bootstrap everything in Python Social-Auth to be used with Django. With that, we have things set in place, and in order to move forward, we need to run migrations since it's going to save all of the information that we get for authenticated users to the database. So we just need to do a manage migrate, and in this case, it's going to run all of our initial migrations as well as the ones for our social auth. Next thing we want to do is we want to create a super user for us to log into our admin. That's just standard using manage.py create super user. And now that that's done, let's go ahead and jump back into our settings file and finish filling it out. Since we have our installed apps set, we need to allow access in our templates to template tags. So jump down to the templates section and add 2 lines of social apps, Django app, context processors, and backends and a login redirect so that we can use these things in our templates. And we'll show that here in a little bit. The next thing we want to do is we want to set our authentication backends. And in this case, we're going to set the Instagram backend with our Python social-auth with social.backends.instagram and then Instagram OAuth 2. And then we want to set the Django contrib auth backends model backend so that it falls down into using that and it's still available so that we use the social auth for the authentication system and it creates a user object in our model backend for our authentication and we use that for authorization. And then the final thing we have for our settings is setting our tokens. In this case, we're going to set social auth Instagram key and social auth Instagram secret. This is a convention, so if you were to do this with Facebook or GitHub, you would do social auth Facebook key or social auth GitHub key. And then in this case, we're going to set it based on environment variables so you don't see my super secret keys. So with that, our settings are done and we can move on to 2 final things that we need to do. First of which is we need to set a URL. So if we'll go into our demo URLs and we'll just simply add a social section to it where we include our social apps Django app URLs. And this is going to set all the URLs we need to for all of the different authentication systems, and it's going to set it to start with social on our URL. I highly recommend you take a look at the URLs that are available with it so that you get an idea of what goes where. One of the specific things to be aware of is you need to know that in this case you would have social/complete/ whatever provider you're using would be your redirect URL that you would set and configure potentially on different sites. Then the final thing we need to do for a setting is to add the login URL. In this case, we're using the URL tag and we're doing social begin and Instagram saying, hey, we want to begin the social process. And then we're passing it in the parameter of Instagram so that it knows, hey, we're going to use the Instagram authentication scheme. In this case, you might put GitHub or Facebook in place. That's it with configuring how to use Python social-auth. So let's go ahead and give it a run. If we'll open it up in our browser and then click login with Instagram. See, it goes to the Instagram website and it says, hey, you're trying to log in with this information. You just click on authorize and poof, it works. You go back and you can now see that you're logged in as your Instagram user. If you jump over to the admin, you can see, hey, we're not authenticated with the right credentials. So just go ahead and log in with the right credentials and poof, we're in the admin. We have our normal authentication and authorization section, and we also have the Python social auth section as well. If we look at our users, you can see we have the super user, and then we also have the user that we created from Instagram. If you look in there, it does not have a password password set because it's all being handled by logging in with Instagram. Next thing we'll look at is the user social auths part of the Python social auth, and you can see, hey, we have the user signed in, we have their ID, it lists what provider, in this case Instagram, and the ID of the user on Instagram site. So finally, now that we've authenticated and we've gone through our initial step, let's go ahead and go back home and when we're logged out. So if we'll just click on login with Instagram, it goes through its normal process, and now we're logged in with the Instagram user again. So that's it. That's all there is to using Python Social Auth. It's a quick way to get your social authentication going with third-party sites, and you don't really have to do a whole heck of a lot of work. I really hope that you'll check out Python Social Auth, as it's a great library and easy to keep up to date and maintain. Thank you and have a great day.